Section 12-1, Part 2, Writing Proofs. It is given that A intersects B. Here we have a figure where line A intersects line B. Write the missing statements and reasons in this proof that the measure of angle 2 is equal to the measure of angle 3. That's what we're trying to prove. The measure of angle 2 is equal to the measure of angle 3. So the first one, it is given. What is given? Well, we were given that A intersects B. So this would be your statement, A intersects B, and the reason would be given. Okay? Next, let's look at the next statement. The measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equal to 180. Well, let's locate the measure of angle 1. Here's angle 1, and here's angle 2. It says the measure of angle 1 and angle 2 because blank are adjacent angles that form a straight line. Okay? So, we know that the angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent because they're side by side. They share a common vertex and a common side. So they're adjacent and they form a straight line. So the answer that would go in this blank is because of angle 1 and angle 2. So the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 is equal to 180 because angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent and they form a straight line. Therefore, when you add their two measures together, you get 180. Next, the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3 is equal to 180. So the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3, so I'm going to cover up, you're looking at 1 and 3. The measure of angle 1 and the measure of angle 3 equal to 180 because angle 1 and angle 3 are adjacent angles that form a straight line. That's the reason why we can say that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3 equals to 180 because these two angles, 1 and 3, are adjacent and they form a straight line. Therefore, those two angles add up to 180. We could also say those two angles are supplementary. Okay? All right, let's continue. So if we know that the measure of angle 1 and angle 2 equal 180, I'm going to write that. We know that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equal to 180. We also know that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3 equal to 180. By what property can we state that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 is equal to the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3? Well, if we know that these two angles together equal 180, we can substitute this in for 180. So we would have the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 is equal to the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3. Since we know that these two angles added together equal 180, I can substitute in what I have circled in for 180. So by substitution, I can say that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 is equal to the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3. Okay? I substituted in what I have circled in for 180, writing this step here. This was formed by substitution. Next, the last step, by subtraction property of equality, what can we conclude? Well, let's look. What do we have on both sides of this equation? And keep in mind, our final answer should be the measure of angle 2 equals to the measure of angle 3. Well, we can subtract the measure of angle 1 from both sides. If you subtract the measure of angle 1, just like an equation, from both sides, you end up with the measure of angle 2 equals to the measure of angle 3. What allowed me to perform this operation was the subtraction. Was the subtraction property of equality. So by the subtraction property of equality, this would be your last statement. The measure of angle 2 is equal to the measure of angle 3. So we went through, the first step was given. We could make this statement because angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent and form a straight angle. We could make this statement, the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3 equals to 180, because angle 1 and 3 are adjacent and form a straight line, straight angle. Then we could use substitution. Remember, I used substitution. I plugged in the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3 in for 180 by substitution. And then I got to this step here with my check mark when I use substitution. Then I'd use subtraction, subtracting angle 1 from both sides, giving me that final proof that I needed, that the measure of angle 2 equals to measure of angle 3 by the subtraction property.